No Bam Adebayo or Kyle Lowry in the lineup tonight. It was the first night of a back-to-back set. We'll talk a little bit about their decision to get some rest today before facing the Washington Wizards on Thursday night. But Miami looks sluggish. Obviously, they would be without two starters in the lineup. The start of the game was a really rough one for them, shooting just 30% and scoring only 21 points in the first quarter, while giving up 55% shooting to the Pelicans, who were scorching hot from three-point range, going 6 of 13 on their way to 34 points in the first quarter alone. But Miami eventually found their rhythm and held the Pelicans to just 4 of 22 on three-pointers throughout the next three quarters. And Jimmy Butler was absolutely the key. 21 points in the first half for Jimmy to keep Miami in the game, finishing up the night with a triple-double, 31 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. Wes, you were there at the game. Jimmy was electric.
He was, and the part of his game that has impressed me so much this season has just been how aggressive and just mean he has been when he gets a smaller player switched onto him. And New Orleans plays that switching style. That is what Willie Green wants to make their identity. They are very, very dedicated to doing that. Obviously, the Pelicans stink this year, but I think the whole point for them is to uh, try to instill some of those habits and try to figure out a system, figure out an identity. And so they weren't going to stop switching tonight. If they wanted, I think if the Pelicans really wanted to really win this game, maybe they stopped switching things so much. I don't know that it would have worked. I think
Right.
I think Jimmy Butler and the Heat, even without Kyle Lowry and without Bam, are just too talented. But it was just surprising. Like that's to me why I wasn't too concerned early on, is because you saw this advantage sort of playing out. Miami was missing shots. They were a little disorganized at first without Lowry, without Bam, but once they got their feet under them and sort of figured out what it is that they wanted to do, they started feeding Jimmy Butler in the post, getting those switches whenever they wanted them, and then Jimmy Butler just went to work. You mentioned the 31 points, 10 assists, he had 10 rebounds. I mean, him in the post started everything for Miami's offense. It finally got out of the mud in the second half.
Yeah, look, the Pelicans had a large lead of up to 15 points at one point.
Yeah.
As Spo has said on a number of occasions, you can't ever overlook any kind of lead. No lead is safe in this NBA because you can always work your way back with a three-point shot. And Miami certainly did that. They caught fire from three-point range. They got a big boost off their bench. Tyler Herro finally got it going. We'll talk about him later on in the segment. But Jimmy, as aggressive as you pointed out he was, just doing the dirty work, getting to the line, getting calls all the time without having to, badger the refs in order to get those calls in his favor. It's just being more physical, more dominant, using his explosiveness, his size and speed, that combination that's so good. Why he is a legitimate MVP candidate to control the pace of the game and to keep Miami holding water. It was just, they were treading water through most of the first half. A lead that was up to 15, like I mentioned, down to just 5 at halftime, but it was just enough. They started slowly climbing their way back there.
Yeah, look, on a night when you have no Lowry and no Bam, you need both of your top two guys to step up. You need Jimmy Butler, you need Tyler Herro to step up. And look, I tweeted this in the middle of the game, David, but without those guys, you have two shot creators, two
Yep.
guys who can actually make stuff happen. And one of them started out 0 for 6, and that was Tyler Herro. After that 0 for 6 start, he ended up figuring out his rhythm. Eric Spoelstra after the game said that just stuff wasn't working, like the execution on offense wasn't right. They were just not, people were just not on the same page. They got on the same page, and then as soon as they did, Tyler Herro took off, right? Spoelstra uses the word ignitable in regards to Herro all the time. Well, he caught fire. He went 5 for 5 after going 0 for 6. He ends up finishing the game 7 for 19, 19 points in the game. Hit that crazy beyond the half court lob thing. It was a pass to Jimmy Butler. It was meant to be a pass to Jimmy Butler. Ends up going through. It was just like one of those kinds of nights for Tyler Herro when he hit that stretch in that third quarter, and he was a big reason why Miami outscored New Orleans 34-18 in that third quarter. And basically that was a stretch that won the game, right? That was the turning point.
Yep.
When Herro got going and Jimmy Butler was just doing his thing throughout the night, it just, even without two of their top 4 players, Miami was still more talented than New Orleans.
Absolutely. Yeah. 2 points for Tyler in the first half. I think with about 4.5 or so minutes left in that game, in the first half, excuse me, he finally got his first mid-range bucket to fall. And then 6 of 12 in the second half, as you pointed out, were 17 points. Just a great night for him. It's just the ability to kind of catch fire. We've seen that from Tyler before. We've seen much more consistent scoring from him throughout, whether he's a starter or whether he's coming off the bench. He mentioned today that he wasn't quite ready to go. I'm not sure how much I buy that. I think New Orleans actually did a pretty good job of limiting his looks, harassing him, kind of shading him and shadowing him at every opportunity to deny him the ball, to make things uncomfortable. Nikhil Alexander Walker had a really
Yeah.
nice game. Picked his pocket on a couple of straight possessions. Herb Jones, I think, also had a couple great steals against Tyler, but Tyler figured it out. I mean, this is the kind of maturity that we've been talking about all season. And look,
Yeah.
you can dismiss the win, that it's a bad Pelicans team, but at the same time, we've talked about this consistently all season long. This is a team that understands what's at stake on every game. They don't play down to their opponents. They started off sluggishly, again, as you would expect. PJ Tucker, who we haven't even spoken about, picked up 2 fouls within a minute of the
Yeah.
game. And so they were completely discombobulated, but eventually they found their identity thanks to Jimmy, thanks to Tyler, and they were able to pull away. By that time the third quarter was over, it was pretty clear that Miami was cruising on their way to a victory.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a tough game. I don't care if it's New Orleans or not. You're missing 2 of your best players. You're coming
Right.
back from a really grueling, taxing 5-game West Coast swing, and like your homecoming present is, hey, back-to-back games at your home floor, and then by the way, then you got to hit the road again for 4 games or whatever it is. Like,
Right.
this has been such a tough start to the schedule for the Heat. They have the 5th hardest schedule in the league, I think, right now, and they're really kind of in the thick of it. It starts to ease up a little bit later down the line, but you're still not out of it yet if you're the Heat. And to get a win like this when you're tired, I thought they were really tired. I thought they looked just completely just exhausted in that first quarter. And you get Tyler Herro igniting. You also get Udonis Haslem giving them that emotional bump that I think that this team needed. I know we're going to talk about that in the next segment, but all of those things sort of crescendoed in that third period, and that was
Yeah.
when the Heat were able to take over and build enough of a cushion where they ended up winning pretty comfortably by the end.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, Wes, this is for you. That first game back after a long road trip, always a trap game.
That's what
Players are
they
just
say.
discombobulated. They're thrown off. Listen, Ron Rothstein, my friend Ron Rothstein, confirmed it at halftime. So you know what? I think it's true.